there is an ancient, terrible prophecy of doom. An event known as the Invasion of Gog, from the Land of Magog. It is a threat that is prophesied to come upon the lands of the Jews during the last days, and be a punishment for the wicked and the unbelievers. A great war is set to take place, in which millions will die, and empires will collapse. Are we finally close enough to the last day to be able to decipher this coming cataclysm, and understand God's plan before it unfolds? This mystic prophecy, the true meaning of which has been purposefully hidden by the Ancient of Days, only to be understood in the times of revelation, lies in the cryptic pages of the Old Testament. In the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 38. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, against the mountains of Israel. Thou shalt ascend, and come like a storm, thou shalt be like a cloud, to cover the land, thou, and all thy bands, and many people with thee. The identity of Gog, from the land of Magog, has remained shrouded in mystery for thousands of years. Many look for clues, signs, and hidden methods of deciphering his name. But his true identity remains hidden, and all attempts at revealing it fail as unconvincing speculation. But who is this frightful and dreaded enemy, bound to clash with the nation of Israel? Is there really a way to understand the prophecies and the evidence, and come to a definitive conclusion? Can the mists of ancient history be dispersed to reveal the hidden truth? Let us examine the details surrounding this mysterious invader. From the genealogy given in the book of Genesis, which describes the ancestral tree of the ancient people, we know that Magog is the second of the 7 sons of Japheth. Japheth is one of the 3 sons of Noah. After the flood ended, and the waters subsided, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. And the descendants of Noah spread in the area of the Middle East, and settled in different places. They multiplied, and different tribes formed from their progeny. It is difficult to trace where exactly Magog settled, but there is a very old map which might give us a clue. The Historical Textbook and Atlas of Biblical Geography by Coleman, from 1854, contains a map describing the world according to the Hebrews in the ancient times after the flood. On it is shown where the land of Magog is. The map points us to the area between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, in what is today southwest Russia. This leads many to the association of Magog with Russia, and it is a common interpretation in Western Christian organizations today. However, it should be noted that Russia is the largest country in the world, and that little part of it certainly cannot be considered her heart. Actually, from the perspective of the vast human history, these southwestern lands could hardly be called native to Russia. They were conquered by the Russians around the year 1560, after the fall of the Mongol Empire. Before that time, this area of the world was controlled by the Scythians, believed to be of Persian or Turkic origin. It later fell into the possession of other Central Asian, Turkic tribes, like the Huns and Khazars. Russian origins, on the other hand, are located in the areas to the northwest, where around the year 870, the Kievan Rus monarchy was formed. However, a closer examination of this old Hebrew map reveals that the land south of the Caucasus Mountains, which is today Turkish and Georgian territory, is also labeled as Meshech, Gog, Magog. Meshech was one of those mentioned in Ezekiel's prophecy. He is one of Magog's brothers. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. We can also see Tubal nearby. Again, another brother of Magog. Other names, also mentioned in the prophecy, are Gomer and Togarmah, more of Magog's brothers. They are in the list of countries who will join Gog in his invasion on Israel. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north waters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. So, from all this, it is becoming clear that we are talking about countries from the Middle East, and tribes which inhabited the lands of Anatolia, which is today entirely controlled by Turkey. All this doesn't seem to have much to do with Russia. Now, let's examine Gog himself. If you research the identity of Gog among today's Western Christian organizations, you may find interpretations like this. Gog is a person who rules over the land of Magog, Russia. Magog means the prince of Rosh. Gog, Rosh, is the old root word for the land of Russia. These claims, however, seem to be completely unsubstantiated and verging on Cold War era anti-Russian propaganda. As we saw, the old root word for ancient Russia is Res, from the Kievan Rus monarchy, which was centered around the city of Kiev, which is today the capital of Ukraine. Actually, the name Gog is not cryptic at all. It does not require decoding or interpretation. It is a literal name, which a race of ancient people have had for a long time. Central Asia has been occupied by Turkic tribes for thousands of years. They have been causing invasions and raids and waves of immigration in the surrounding lands many times. The Hun invasion that brought down Rome, the Avar invasion, the Khazar invasion, the Kuman invasion, all coming out of Central Asia, spilling into Europe. Even the ancient ancestors of the Mongols, before they mixed genetically with the Chinese, were a pure Turkic tribe. In 550 AD, in the eastern parts of Central Asia, these Turkic tribes were known as the tribes of Ruran. Later on, Ruran was divided into two khaganates. They were known as the Eastern and Western Gog-Turk khaganates. These are the people of Gog that we have been looking for, hidden and tucked away in Eastern Asia. These two khaganates were eventually unified around 580 AD, and then broke up again, and the eastern part was conquered by the Chinese, which is when the Mongols gained their East Asian traits. Then, they were able to liberate themselves, and again formed a state with the name Gog-Turk. Many years passed, and many Turkic khaganates and governmental organizations came and went. But beneath all the politics and power struggles, the land remained occupied by Turkic peoples. Around 1040 AD, in the southwestern areas of Central Asia, which is today Turkmenistan, these Turkic people formed the state of Seljuk. After their victory over the Persians, they quickly spread in the surrounding area and conquered the eastern parts of Byzantium. Eventually their empire collapsed, but they left a presence in Anatolia which was never fully recovered by the Byzantine people. This first wave of Turks into the Land of Magog later formed the Riyam Sultanate. At about the same time, around 1210 AD, the eastern tribes of Gog-Turk formed the Khaganate of Mongolia, and they proceeded to conquer half the world. During that ruthless invasion, many of the people of the western Gog-Turk tribes, now renamed to Karakutan and Khwarezm, fled for their lives and immigrated into the area of Anatolia. A second wave of Turks into the Land of Magog. The Mongol Empire could not sustain itself with such large borders and broke up. And in those days, the large immigration of people from western Gog-Turk into Anatolia were able to organize themselves and form what would soon be called the Ottoman Empire. After the fall of the Byzantine capital of Constantinople, the Ottomans were filled with riches and power, and grew to an immense size. Later on, they were defeated and downscaled, and became what is today known as Turkey. So, as we can see, just like Magog, the name Gog has nothing to do with Russia, and everything to do with Turkey. Actually, the term Gog from the Land of Magog is a perfect description of today's Turkish people, explaining both their roots and origin, and their current location. Ezekiel's prophecy becomes even more impressive when you realize that it is already halfway fulfilled. That is so, because it is believed that Ezekiel made his prophecy sometime around 580 BC. Around 1140 years before the Turkic tribes of the East started to associate themselves with the name Gog in 560 AD. And around 1820 years before they emigrated into the Land of Magog in 1240 AD. This interpretation of the identity of Gog being Turkey rather than Russia seems to be much more in tune with today's political situation. In 2018, an Israeli jet fighter conducting military operations in Syria was detected by the Syrian air defense systems. The Israeli jet hid itself behind an Il-20 Russian military plane, and the Syrian air defense rocket hit the Russian plane, killing 15 Russian servicemen. This had the makings of a major conflict. However, Vladimir Putin chose to take the path of peace and good relations with Israel, and did not take any retaliatory measures. The whole incident was forgotten. Turkey's Erdogan, on the other hand, is known to often make anti-Semitic statements, and is not shy of constantly making threats against Israel. With Turkey's recent orientation towards independence from NATO and a resurrection of the Ottoman Empire, a conflict between Turkey and Israel is not far-fetched. So, where is all this going, and what can we expect this Gog invasion to look like? In Surah 21, verse 96 of the Holy Quran, it is stated, "Until the Gog and Magog people are let through their barrier, and they swiftly swarm from every hill. Then will the true promise draw nigh of fulfillment. Then behold, the eyes of the unbelievers will fixedly stare in horror. Ah, woe to us! We were indeed heedless of this. Nay, we truly did wrong. Verily, unbelievers, and the false gods that ye worship, besides Allah, are but fuel for hell. To it will ye surely come." So obviously, from the Quran's perspective, the invasion of Gog will be a terrible plague, with which God will punish those of the Jews who are unbelievers. From Ezekiel's prophecy, we learn, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them, dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil, and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord God. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood. And I will rain upon him, and upon his bands, and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain, and great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back, and leave but the sixth part of thee. And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel. And I will send a fire on Magog, and among them, that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them, that they may cleanse the land. So, from all of this, we can interpret that Turkey will fail in its invasion, and 5/6 of their armies will be destroyed. We also see that the fall of Gog is not solely attributed to the war itself, but also to a punishment from God, with the raining of brimstone and fire from the sky, which will not only affect Turkey, but also the people dwelling carelessly on the isles. That obviously is a reference to Greece, since it is the only island region in the entire surrounding area. Such a large-scale war may seem unlikely to many. But one should keep in mind that wars do not start with full fury, out of nothing, but are often a gradual escalation. For example, a possible scenario could be a false flag terror operation in the West. Perhaps a dirty nuke in New York, which leads to an invasion in Syria and Iran. That in turn, causing an increase of military presence in the area by Russia. The possible arming of Iran in Syria with nuclear weapons to deter the Western threat. The possible use of these weapons. And the retaliation by Israel, which would be the popular prophecy of the nuking of Damascus. Isaiah 17. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. The fortress also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria, they shall be as the glory of the children of Israel. And in that day, it shall come to pass, that the glory of Jacob shall be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean. A retaliatory nuclear strike on Damascus by Israel could easily justify a full-force invasion by Turkey.